So give continuation to the studies of the Miriam's book, chapter 24, the identity of spirits. We are now in the section, the end of the chapter, as Kardec does often in this book. He brings questions to spirits related to the topic. That is almost a summary of everything that he had already spoke before. So what we are going to see here, some of those questions, it may seem repetitive, but it is his intention to really reinforce to us the great necessity, the topics that he finds to be extremely important, that we keep in mind instead of mediumship, and more important, the practice of mediumship with Jesus. So we covered up to 10 questions. Now you are in question 11. And if anyone missed a day or another, doesn't really matter. And it's actually a good opportunity to recap the whole chapter through those questions. (11), who's going to read?
Okay, I will, Elmo. Number 11. Ridiculous spirit communications are sometimes mixed in with worthy maxims. How can we resolve this anomaly, which seems to indicate the simultaneous presence of both good and evil spirits? Evil or frivolous spirits also pronounce maxims, but without really realizing the reach or meaning of what they say. Are all those who do this among you superior individuals? No. Good and evil spirits do not mix together. You can recognize the presence of good spirits by the constant uniformity in good communications.
Thanks. There's two things over here. One is about us. Ignorant spirits in the pathway of progress, way too far from perfection, but way too far from being simple and ignorant at the point of creation. Joanna Judge tells us that if you make on a straight line and the beginning of the line is the level of the animalia, and the end of the line is the level of the Christs, we are close to the level of the Christ and to the level of the animalia. So we are not all that ignorant, but it's still very far from perfection. Why I'm saying this? Because within us, we already have some good, but we still have a lot of things to work on. I'm not gonna say bad things, but a lot of things that we need to get free from it. So it's very likely that in our conversation, even as among ourselves, you may say something quite brilliant, any one of us, followed by something really despicable, because we have both within us. And once you leave this physical body behind, we don't lose all our vices, neither we conquer all of our virtues at once. We continue to be the same. So in our communication, we may get what Kardec says over here, say, communications that are mixed with worthy maxims in a ridiculous communication. It's pretty much us.
Yeah.
We are all capable of saying something quite good, followed by something quite deplorable, and vice versa. The differentiation that we can make, and we're going to see that later on, of more evolved spirits, they no longer have that oscillation. They do not go in that seesaw up and down between ridiculous and valuable. Once we have a certain level of more intellectual involvement, it'll be more constant. you'll be more towards the good, or consistently towards the good, towards the right. Okay, so you can recognize the presence of good spirits by constant uniformity of good intentions.
Mm.
And yes, once we are receiving, let's say, a communication, a psychography or psychophony, there are not two spirits speaking. They are not mixing the good and the bad. It's not like we have, the good angel on the right shoulder and the devil in the left shoulder, and they are each one say something. No, it's the same spirit providing a communication, putting out what he or she is, with all the good and all the bad at some time. So it's not surprising to me. It's actually expectable from average spirits like us. Not necessarily evil, not completely ignorant, but way far from perfection yet. Um, if anyone has any questions, any comments, go right ahead, start speaking, or put a written message. Otherwise, just gonna keep going, question uh, after question, okay?
Okay.
So you can interrupt me at any time with any questions.
Okay. So we go to number 12. Are the spirits who induce us to error always aware of what they are doing? No, they are good but ignorant spirits who nonetheless can unknowingly be deceptive. When they become aware of their insufficiency, they acknowledge it and only say what they know. 13.
Okay, so this is, thanks, Oreda.
Okay.
So this is what we always say here, right? So we're trying to make a kind of a differentiation between ignorant for lack of understanding and ignorant for the desire of doing bad, desire of being evil. And as we say here, little knowledge is a very dangerous thing, right? That we make mistakes with good intentions. And that's exactly what the spirits are talking about here. There are good but ignorant spirits who nonetheless can unknowingly be deceptive. Um, we can go in and, I don't know, the subway, and we ask direction to someone how to get to a certain place, and this person may believe that they know how to get over there, but give you a wrong direction, full of good intention, full of really desire of telling you how to go, make a right here, make a left there, go to the such and such, and perhaps mistaking the direction, but with a good intention may lead you to a wandering around without finding the place that you're looking for, but full of good intention, with no desire to be deceiving, with no desire to be harmful, but it is yet harmful because you waste your whole time, and you need to go to that place at a certain time, and now you cannot find because you trust that person knew what that person's talking about. And some of us will give wrong information with absolute certainty that you know what you're talking about, and may fool someone without the intention. That can happen to us. That can happen to spirits as well. 13.
Okay. 13. Does a spirit always have malicious intentions when it communicates error? No. If it is a frivolous spirit, it deceives with no other purpose than to entertain itself.
I'd like to always make a differentiation between frivolous and evil, being that the evil has intention of causing harm. The frivolous just want to have some fun. At the end, they're both harmful. They both cause us problem. Um, the frivolous perhaps is a little less consequential, perhaps carries less consequences to us who listen to them and to themselves, since they don't have the true intention of being harmful to anyone. They just want to have some fun. But yet, it reveals their ignorance, and yet it reveals our ignorance when we fall trapped by by them. Because if we're a little bit wise, we'd be able to perceive that they are just trying to have some fun and protect ourselves. And it also reveals that we, are not really being vigilant, because if you're fully vigilant and praying, as um, Jesus Christ suggests, we would not create rooms, we would create opportunity for those spirits to come and bother us. You'll be surrounded by more elevated spirits. 14.
Since certain spirits can deceive us with their language, can they also assume a false appearance for seen mediums? That happens, but it is more difficult. In all cases, it is only a purpose that the evil spirits themselves do not know about, since they are being used as instruments for a lesson. A seen medium can see frivolous and lying spirits just as other mediums can hear them or write under their influence. Frivolous spirits can take advantage of the medium's faculty in order to deceive him or her with a false appearance, but it depends on the qualities of the medium's own spirit.
So it'd be easy to understand that an spirit can, we know our petty spirit is malleable and it can change the appearance of the petty spirit, but does require a little greater know-how. It does require a better manipulation of subtle matter, universe fluid, so to say. You can understand that it'll be a little more difficult than deceived by only words, by only speaking, by language. But it can also be done.
Mhm.
Our experience is a learning opportunity. I don't really like the idea that our protecting spirits, the protect spirit of spirit center will actually produce or allow spirits to do those things to give us a lessons. I think those things happens, and when that happens, lack of our vigilance, the lack of our prayer, it in itself is a great lesson for us to educate ourselves. And and if we are allowing ourselves to be deceived by false appearance, what does it tell about us? Why are we being so easily deceived by false appearances? Right? It reveals our lack of understanding, it reveals our lack of doing the oldest Kardec's telling us here of identity of spirits. That if I dress myself like a priest, I'm not a priest. But I could fool someone if I dress myself like a priest. But once I open my mouth and start talking, someone who's paying attention, you'll see. The album is no priest, right? But someone who's not paying attention, just paying attention to parents, may be fooled. 15.
Okay. 15. Okay. Are good intentions sufficient in order not to be deceived? And if so, could truly serious persons who do not mix idle curiosity into their studies also be exposed to fraud? Less than others, obviously, but men and women always display a few weaknesses that attract mocking spirits. They think that they are strong, but they almost never are. They should distrust themselves for the weakness arising from their pride and prejudices. They hardly ever take these two courses into consideration, and spirits take advantage of this fact. By flattering their weaknesses, they are sure to succeed. Hmm.
So again, far from being perfect, but much, much farther to be completely ignorant, we have our fallacies. And with all our all the best of our intentions, even doing all the right things, as Kardec suggests in these questions over here, we we still have within us those little defects, those little problems that will create a small and much more infrequent windows of opportunity for deceiving spirits to come in and try to deceive us. But likely, if you are doing the right things, as Kardec suggests over here for this group of individuals, that would be overcome if our vigilance or prayers are greater than our little defects. The defects are there, opportunistic, frivolous, or evil spirits may target those little defects. They may be able to get some advantage, but if you're doing the right work, it will quickly be put down because goodness consistently prevails over evil, because love is irresistible to anyone. So there is an opportunity that even if you're doing all the right things, we still may encounter in our work those who are trying to deceive us. And again, we also have our responsibilities, our issues or responsibilities of the past that you're going to have to deal with. And perhaps it is when we're doing all those right things that is the greatest opportunity for us to revisit those sour relationships of the past with a great opportunity to fixing it, to resolving, to cleaning up our mistakes of the past. Okay, 16.
16. Why does God allow evil spirits to communicate and say bad things? Even the worst communications can provide you a lesson. It is up to you to know how to discern it. All kinds of communications are necessary to teach you how to distinguish between good and evil spirits, and also to serve you as a mirror.
Okay, of course, the vices of the language of the time, the things that God allows or God permits, and we know that God is so good, all law of God is not, point fingers and say, no, you cannot say that, no, you can do this. There is a divine law created by God that is absolute perfect and immutable, and therefore God does not have to be allowing anything else. The natural laws of God takes care of all of it. And in these perfect laws of God is meant to lead us from simple and ignorant into spiritual perfection. And how else would we learn if not being tested, being tried in many different ways? So God does not allow. But living this life right now, we are exposed to many things. Many things are good, Many things are not so good, but all of them provides a lesson. And if you are smart enough, you learn from all of them.
Sure. Okay. 17. Can spirits suggest unjust reasons for distrust against certain persons through written communications and estrange friends from each other? Perverse and jealous spirits can practice the same evils that humans practice. Thus, you must always be on guard. Highly evolved spirits are always prudent and reserved when they admonish you. They say nothing evil. They warn with tact. If they want two individuals to stop seeing each other for their own good, they will cause incidents that separate them in a natural way. An utterance that sows discord and distrust always comes from an evil spirit, no matter what name it uses. Hence, always be suspicious when a spirit says something bad against another, especially when a good spirit has already said the opposite. Also, distrust yourselves in your own aversions. Accept only spirit communications that are good, grand, beautiful, and reasonable, and what your own conscience approves of.
That's a kind of a no-brainer, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
If you are in a place, I don't know, you go to a restaurant and sit at a table, and the next table is two individuals talking. The one is always bad mouthing a third person. You know, you can hear that person. Unfortunately, is not all that morally evolved. If you receive a communication, the spirit is saying bad things about anyone incarnate and discarnate. I never, there I go. I try to not use always and ever, things two very dangerous words. But here I take the risk and I say that I evolved the spirit with never about bad mouth anyone. Um, I don't want to bring names, but I can only use the names of individuals that most of us would not classify as a good spirit. And above the spirit, you say nothing, or if you say you will try to bring valuable lessons to us in association with this or that spirit, without bad mouthing that spirit, that person. That will not happen from above the spirit. If there is a need for one of us be separated from someone else, incarnate, so to say. And above the spirit's not gonna come to us and say, you cannot hang out with this person. That person is not good for you. You have to completely avoid the company of that person. They will do what they can do in a very subtle ways to create a degree of separation. But keep in mind that never, there I go again with the word never, and I take that chance here again, disrespecting our free will. If that's what you want, that company that they realize it's not the best for us at that time in our lives, they will try to create that degree of separation. But if we have a free will, we can do whatever you want, and they will not infringe on that. That's one of the things that we will also separate more evolved from less evolved spirit. Less evolved spirit will infringe on our free will, will demand things from us, and more evolved spirit will never do so. So once the spirit is forcing us in some kind of separation or is bad about someone, is a very, very strong sign of inferiority of that spirit. They're not going to to find in a motive of the spirit.
Okay.
18.
18. Okay. Due to the ease with which evil spirits infiltrate communications, can we ever be certain as to the truth? Yes, you can, because you can use your reason to judge them. Whenever you read a letter, you know very well if it is written by a low-life or well-bred person, a fool or sage. Why should it be different with spirits who write to you? If you receive a letter from a distant friend, how do you know it is actually from him or her? The penmanship, you will say. But aren't there forgers who imitate every type of handwriting and rogues who know your business dealings? Nevertheless, there are signs that will prevent you from being deceived. The same applies to spirits. Pretend that it is a friend who is writing to you, or that you are dealing with the work of some author, and judge it accordingly.
So it says, but to the easy
Mm.
with which evil spirits infiltrate communications, can we ever be certain with the truth? I kind of challenge that easy. Naturally, we choose our friends, we choose who you want to hang out with through our thoughts and actions, and especially to the quality of our sentiments that produces thoughts, that produces actions. We will declare who are our friends, who's going to be around us. So it may be easy, depends on the quality of our energies that will generate those around us. But if you are in the right pathway, make mistakes, of course, but it's still in the right pathway, it should not be all that easy. Can we ever be certain as to the truth? And only this sense tells everything as it can, because you can use your reason to judge them. And everything comes to it. Reason with the minimum as possible of our prejudices interfering with our reasoning. It's always going to come back to that because we all have our prejudices. We are not perfect. We all have things that limits the way we read things. In the statement of Jesus when the doctor of the law asked him how to reach the eternal life, the answer was, what is written in the scriptures and how do you read it? Two different things. I just commented that with Ron the other day. But two completely different things. In order for us to read what's right, we have to kind of free ourselves from some of the prejudices, or at least not allow them to interfere with reasoning. Once we do that, then we'll be able to distinguish truth from untruth. We are very tied up with names. We spoke that a lot. If the message comes from some name that you respect, some figure in history that deserves our respect, that deserves our attention, it will catch our attention. We will get the deserving respect for the deeds of that person in their historical moment. But when you read it, we have to detach that name for what's being written, from the message itself. And if you do that, you'll be able to, with great degree, of confidence. Say, yes, this is something useful. I see the truth in here. And no, this is someone trying to deceive me. There's someone trying to pull my leg. Reason. But again, try to be free yourself as much as possible. Do not allow our prejudices, even our cultural facts, to interfere with reasoning.
Okay. 19.
19.
Yes. Could high order spirits prevent evil ones from using false names? Of course they could. But the worse spirits are, but the worse the spirits are, the more obstinate they are, and the more frequently they resist injunctions. You should know, however, that high order spirits take more of an interest in certain individuals than others. And when they deem it necessary, they know how to keep them from lies. Deceiving spirits are powerless against such persons.
Again, Andrea Luiz in his books always bring that directly and indirectly of hierarchy of spirits and irresistible superiority in that hierarchy, that more elevated spirits can and prevent the action of less evolved spirits. That the love that they carry, that their moral superiority are irresistible and no lower spirit can resist to it. But as we said before, we need to be exposed to many different things in order to learn. And some of those experiences are necessary. True, we have the right of make mistakes. It's part of our free will. And evolved spirits will not infringe on our free will. Again, we choose who you want to listen to. And evolved spirit will allow us to go through the difficulties that leads to something grand in the future. How long we're going to delay our progress, it's up to us. So they could stop at any moment. They could use the hierarchy superiority and say, no, you cannot do that. How would that help us? And remember that their goal, the objective is to help us to ascend, is to help us to move up. And as the little parable of the sheep guard, who had a learning individual with him trying to become a good shepherd as well. And the experienced shepherd would take care of the sheep during the day, and at night they would go to their little cabin. And there was a time that the learning individual, now learning from the experienced one, would make all the questions. And one day, as they are eating dinner, the young one asks, if one of the sheep falls in a ditch, what do you do? And yes, I take them out of it. I clean her up and put her back with it. Clean her up and put her back with the others. What if, in that process, that sheep hurts one of the legs? No problem. I'll bring them to my cabin. I'll heal the wound. I'll take care of her, and then I'll put her back with the others. And what if one of them run away from you and from the others? What do you do? And he says, well, I cannot abandon all my other ships and go after one, but I'll send my dog who will take care of it. My dog's name is Pain. There are moments in our life that we need to experience some kind of pain. And when we experience that pain is because the good shepherd had sent his dog to retrieve us, to bring us back with the others so he can guide us. So if we have we choose to run away, we choose not to be vigilant, not to pray, and expose ourselves to less superior spirits, it will happen. Then we have to deal with the consequences. And the consequences, again, always lead to good. It is the good shepherd's dog retrieving us to get us back with his flock.
Okay, 20.
Okay.
What is the reason for this partiality? It is not part of partiality, but justice. Good spirits are interested in those who profit from their counsels and make serious efforts to improve themselves. They favor these persons and help them, but they do not bother with those who waste their time with flowery speech.
Yeah, that's also very important. And I didn't comment because this question deals with that topic. The Spirit answers over here that the answer says, you should know, however, that higher the spirits take more of an interest in certain individuals than others. Man, that does sound like partiality to me, doesn't it? To me, it's a pretty obvious partiality. And Kardec picks them up and said, what is the reason for this partiality? And then the spirits correct Kardec and correct me, because to me it was definitely partiality when he said that. Okay, read again. No. You should know, however, that higher spirits take more interest in certain individuals than others. Is that partiality? And they say no, but justice. And if you remember the statement of Christ that if you do not really go deep and try to understand what he means, when he says, to whom much was given, more will be given. And for those who have little, even that will be taken away. So, oh my God, what kind of justice is that? How could Christ say something like that? I myself did and still struggle with that a lot. It's hard to understand. Is there a preference of treatment? But he also said once, do not throw pearls to pigs. He also advised his disciples, go and teach, knock at the doors. If the door does not open, shake the sand from your feet and keep on going. The truth is, some of us are not ready to receive help. In our spirit center, you always say, if through the spirits will come to talk to us, if you are here having this conversation with us, because you are ready for the help. Not a partiality, not because you are the chosen one, but because you are ready to receive it. And that's why spirits will pay more attention to those, because those already have some, then you can give some more. I cannot come and teach trigonometry for someone who doesn't know fractions. I'm gonna call in the room and say, who knows fraction? I know fraction. Okay, so I can give a little notion of trigonometry. Otherwise, if I don't know fraction, I don't know equation of second degree, ready for trigonometry, I cannot. I'm going to select those who are ready to learn trigonometry. And I will zero my focus on those. Now, the ones who doesn't know fraction yet, those who doesn't know simple equation yet, will get there. And when they get there, they will also be exposed to trigonometry. So that is the illusion of this partiality. But it is the justice for those who have done the walk to reach there. Now they are ready for more. And that's why you always say, if I be exposed to this trial, it's because you merit. You have matured enough to be able to deal with this. So be grateful, as Paul of Tarsus says, be grateful to everything.
Okay, number 21. Why does God allow spirits to commit the sacrilege of falsely using venerable names? You may as well ask why God allows people to lie and blasphemy. Like people, spirits have their free will to use for good or ill, but never group will escape God's justice.
A very simple answer, a very important answer. And again, the vices, the bad habits of the language of the time, God allows, God disallows, God permits. There is one, again, there is one divine laws that is perfect by God that takes care of everything, and everything means everything. Spirits are we without a physical body. Can you imagine if God would, I don't know, throw away, I don't know, shut our mouth every time that we are right to say something bad, something wrong? It's not going to work. Again, if we are surrounded by deceiving, lying spirits, this is because two things. One, that's the company that we choose. But two, we are ready for the very important lessons that we may learn from those experiences. So again, be grateful to everything.
Okay. Number 22. Are there any formulas that are effective for expelling deceiving spirits? A formula is physical. A good thought directed toward God is worth much more.
Okay. Christ already told us what is the formula, right?
Yes.
Be vigilant and pray.
Okay. Number 23. Some spirits have said that they possess written signs that cannot be imitated, a kind of stamp by which they can be recognized and prove their identity. Is this true? The only signs highly evolved spirits possess for their identity are the loftiness of their ideas and their language. Any spirit can imitate a physical trait. As for less evolved spirits, they betray themselves in so many different ways that only someone who is blind could be deceived by them.
Who is interested in symbolisms? Who is interested in signs? It's us here, things pertaining to this physicality, to this physical world, right? Why would highly ordered spirits have any interest in have this symbol or that sign that identifies him or her? These things pretended that shows the inferior nature of that spirit for its associations of things pertaining to the physical world. What about spirits do not have that, do not need that, do not care for that? They have all that is required for to identify themselves. Their little ID card is what connects over here. loftiness of the ideas and their language. If a spirit presents symbols, anything that is of symbolism is something that is attached to our physical world, is in itself a big red flag that will identify that spirit with being an inferior spirit, a spirit way too attached to things pertaining to our material world, or physical world, I'm sorry.
Okay. Number 24. Can't deceiving spirits also imitate thought? They imitate thought as theater scenes imitate nature.
I confess I do not understand this answer. I have a question mark here from when I studied this the last time, and I still have a question mark here.
Okay.
Can't deceiving spirits also imitate thought?
Imitate thought.
I have a serious problem. Truth is, I don't know. I don't know how to interpret neither the question or the answer.
Okay.
If anybody's willing to help me, I appreciate it.
I think what he meant here is that you receive an inspiration, a thought from an evolved spirit, and he's asking if a deceiving spirit can imitate the thought as if it was coming from a highly evolved spirit, right? And the answer is that a theater scene imitates nature, and you see that it's an imitation. You see that it's not real, and it will be the same. That's my.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we continue. Number 25.
Yes.
Okay, number 25. Is it always easy to detect fraud by a careful examination? Absolutely. Spirits can only deceive those who allow themselves to be deceived. Nevertheless, the eyes of a jeweler are needed to tell a true gem from a fake, and whoever does not know how to do so must go to a lapidary.
Okay, I think this is it's almost a contradictory answer from the spirits of the It is always used to detect fraud from careful examination. And the was says, absolutely. So it says, it is easy. The spirit can only deceive those who allow themselves to be deceived. But then it says over here, nevertheless, the eye of a jeweler is needed to tell a true gem from a fake, which means that it is absolutely easy if if you have some know-how, if you have some understanding. Otherwise, it's not. But it's not that easy. And whoever does not know how to do must go to lapidary, meaning that just thinking of an easy way for understand, let's say that someone receives a psychography that at the bottom of it is signed, I don't know, Isaac Newton or Einstein, and it's pertaining to something of physics, a long dissertation of physics. And the bottom is signed Isaac Newton or Albert Einstein. Now, that medium writes it, psychography, pass it to me, say, listen, I received this from Einstein. I don't know anything of physics. Can you help me here? I'm gonna have to tell my friend, I don't know anything of physics. I cannot say that this was really Isaac Newton. If this thing has, I don't even understand Isaac Newton for his biography, one thing, and nor I know enough of physics. What are we supposed to do? Let's look for someone who knows physics, who can read this, and can tell that is it comparable with the works of Albert Einstein. This is comparable with the line of thought. Of course, Albert Einstein is progressing in the spiritual world, and perhaps his understanding of physics are now much better than was that much better now than when he was incarnate. But yet, someone who knows physics, who knows Isaac Newton, will be able to, with much better degree of confidence, yes, this is quite comparable, and I would support that it really comes from Einstein. For that person, it's easy. It was an absolute. For me, forget it. I couldn't do it. Things pertain of moral content, of moral values. If we are in the right pathway, we're still ignorant, still far from being perfect, but also far from animalia, we should be able to separate things of good moral value content for things of the opposite. But you have to have some degree of know-how, some degree of understanding to make it easy to detect a fraud. Because I don't know anything about diamond. Somebody bring me a crystal made in a lab and ask me to analyze it. I said, no, my friend, you go bring it to somebody who knows diamond. They will check for the fire, for the this, for that, and everything else that qualifies a good and a bad diamond. I'm not the person to do so. But for a professional in the field, they put their eyes on it and they'll tell right away if it's a fraud, if it's a fake, if it's no good. I cannot. So it's easy dependent on your knowledge of the topic.
Okay.
We have time for one more.
And continue.
Yeah, one more.
Okay,
Finish.
26. There are persons who allow themselves to be seduced by flowery language, who are more interested in words than ideas, and who mistake erroneous and common ideas as sublime. Since they are so inept at judging other people's work, how can they possibly judge Spirit's work? When they are modest enough to recognize the insufficiency, they do not rely on themselves. When out of pride, they regard themselves as more capable than they really are. They pay the penalty for their foolish vanity. Fraudulent spirits know whom they are dealing with. They are simple persons with little education who are more difficult to deceive than some who are smart and scholarly. By flattering their vanity, spirits do with them as they please.
Okay, so here again, we make a differential of simplicity and ignorance. We make a differentiate of ignorance as pure lack of knowledge and not being exposed to some education, and being ignorant as evil, but in a sense of being full of vanity, full of oneself, too proud to ask for help, to ask for assistance. Those are the ones who can be easily deceived by a bunch of beautiful words with no important sublime ideas. Again, if you bring me a psychography of Einstein in the topic is in physics, I must assume my ignorance, but be humbled and say, it's sorry, I cannot help with this. It's beyond me. But I know someone who knows physics and I can ask that person. But if I'm full of myself, I'm too proud to say I don't know, I may buy that, I may sell wrong information to people, and I'm responsible for everything that happens. And don't you think that the spirits who seek to deceive us know who to target? They may target mistakenly someone who will not be fooled, but it's going to be just once. They use like those that they know that they can deceive. That then again, vanity is that big bullseyes that we have in our forehead, that they will not miss it. So leadership with Christ is exactly what this is in this answer over here. Humbleness, be selfless, put yourself off of the equation, know your limitations, make sure that because of your pride, because of your vanity, you're not going to compromise, you're not going to hurt somebody else. Going to be so proud and so selfish that I'll pretend that I know something, and with that I may harm someone else. That's selfishness. That's pride. So leadership with Christ is the exercise of humbleness, of being seeking to be selfless all the time in every aspect of our lives, including dealing with leadership, which is, by the way, self-defense. You protect yourself by doing so. I think time is up.
Yeah.
Yep, we stop here. We almost finished. Just have one more question. We'll finish quickly next week and go to the next topic.
Okay.
Someone would like to make a final prayer?
I'll make the prayer, Elmo.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And now, as we come to the end, again, to our beautiful meeting today, with gratitude in our hearts, we thank you, dear Lord, for allowing us here, gathering together, the learning in the Medium's book. May we take it with us, understand it, and relate it in our lives, in helping all those around us who don't understand. May our Father grant us peace throughout the week, allowing us to return again next week to continue our studies. And again, we praise the Lord for the gratitude of being here, receiving all the goodness that our Father allows us to gather here tonight. Dear Lord, we again give you thanks, and we ask that we keep our prayers for all that are going through much difficulties on this universe. May our prayers help them. May we continue to follow our prayers, enlightening their strength and their courage and faith in their hearts, to understand that they're not alone. We pray for all that are in hospitals and hospices, all that are still going through difficulties. Keep ourselves focused and giving light to the world that is so needed now. And again, we give thanks to our teachers, to the Spiritist Group of New York, to all Spiritist centers. Give thanks to the United States Spiritist Council, the United States Spiritist Federation. And may we keep ourselves in prayer for each and every one of us, our families, and those that are in need. May we continue, dear Lord, with prayers in need of so many. We thank you, dear Lord. And we ask, as we leave here today, to keep ourselves in light of goodness, following our Father's footsteps. We thank you, dear Lord. And with that in mind, we ask permission to close our meeting tonight. So be it.